The European Parliament is expected to pass a continent-wide climate emergency resolution later today. It precedes next month's United Nations climate conference in Madrid and comes a day after EU Commission President-elect Ursula von der Leyen finally won approval for the new makeup of her team. She's firmly put the issues of climate change and migration as central pillars for her five-year term. Well, our political editor, Darren McCaffrey, spoke to Mrs von der Leyen after her speech yesterday and can join us now live from Brussels. Morning to you, Darren. After a shaky start, a month delay to the appointment of this team of commissioners, work begins. So before they all start, climate is going to be clearly an important milestone for von der Leyen.
Yeah, indeed, Rosie. You're right in saying it was a pretty rocky path to power for Ursula von der Leyen, but finally she did get over the finishing line yesterday, rather comfortably, it must be said, with a rather larger majority than Jean-Claude Juncker had achieved 5 years ago. But in many regards, the difficult work now does begin when she takes up the reins of office on December 1st, this coming Sunday. And it is also clear that she is making this issue of climate change her number one priority, given the fact that there has been an upsurge in green support in many countries in Western Europe. She pointed in her speech yesterday to the wildfires that we've seen during the summer in some parts of Europe, the storms in the south of France, and indeed the flooding of Venice, as she says, is evidence, given the growing frequency of the dangers of climate change and how it was an existential crisis. Now, I had the chance to speak to the new Commission President, Ursula von der Leyen, after her speech, after she'd won that vote yesterday. And here's what she had to say about this issue of climate change, among others.
You know, the most important thing is to work on new technologies that will make it possible to commute for all of us. Because we will not over time tell people that they will not be able to commute anymore. What we have to do is work on new technology that are cutting the carbon emissions and that are of energy that is renewable and coping with our environment. This is the way to go.
On this issue of the NATO summit next week, Emmanuel Macron said that NATO is brain dead. Do you agree with him?
NATO is a very lively alliance. I know it very well. I think NATO will always be there for collective defense, Article 5, and it is the strongest military alliance in the world. So we know that as a European Union, there are other tasks waiting for us. That's why we built up and are building up the European Defence Union. It is complementary to NATO. It has different tasks. So I think that it is important to have both, NATO for collective defence and the European Union for its specific tasks.
The other high priority, as well as climate, is that of migration. We've got more on that on the programme to come today. But what did Ursula von der Leyen have to say about that?
Well, there are two issues, of course, when it comes to migration. There are economic migrants and there are refugees. Ursula von der Leyen yesterday talked about wanting to see a migration policy that was humane but effective. I don't think in any ways anyone could disagree with that. But there are two main problems. First of all, when it comes to those economic migrants, we have seen a big upsurge in migration this summer, and clearly there is still not agreement between member states about trying to divide up the number of migrants who come to the continent of Europe. The frontier countries like Greece and Italy and Spain would argue that they're having to take on this burden on the whole, and that actually northern European countries need to take on more responsibility.